Good afternoon, Governor. My name is Nduka Chejini of the Nation newspaper. Last week also, the environment was awash with complaints that some banks are distressed. Can you please tell us how stable and strong are our banks in Nigeria? Thank you very much.
Let me say that all those social media messages going around are all fake and indeed are fraudulent, and the CBN is currently doing everything possible to trail those perpetrators who intend on creating problem to create banking system instability. We will, by God's grace, unravel who they are, and we will announce them, bring them to the public if we find them. But I want to say that, and I repeat, that the strategic health of the Nigerian banking industry remains very, very strong. For instance, at today's meeting, data was provided to Monetary Policy Committee members, and I will say we review the financial soundness indicators of the Nigerian banking industry. For instance, capital adequacy ratio averages 15.5%. For the national banks, they are only meant to have just 10%. For the international banks, those operating with international licenses, they are supposed to operate at 15%. If we have an average of 15.5%, we believe that this capital adequacy, the Nigerian banking industry is well capitalized and can meet any shocks if they arise. 2, non-performing loans ratio today stands at 5.7%. Our prescribed maximum is 5%. Even at a time when there's global crisis, if we have 5.7 instead of 5, I think it's an indication of a sound banking system. 3, liquidity ratio for the banking industry today is 41.3%. What is expected is a minimum of 30%. If the banks have an average of 41.3%, we believe that is an indication of a sound banking or sound liquidity in the banking system. Total assets in the banking industry from the data that we saw today rose from 37.8 trillion naira in May 2019, 2 years ago, and today total assets of the banking industry is 53.6 trillion naira as at June 2021. Total deposits in the banking industry has increased from 22.83 trillion naira in May 2019 to 33.85 trillion naira in June 2021. Gross loans have grown from 15.4 trillion naira in June 2019 to 22.04 trillion naira in June 2021. Like I said earlier, non-performing loans ratios have dropped from as high as 11.17% in May 2019 to 5.7% in June 2021 against a maximum threshold of 5%. So where lies the issues on distress? I would like to appeal to members of the banking public to please go about and conduct their banking business in any banks of their choice. We are monitoring the banks, and where we find that there are some weaknesses in some banks, we will target the shareholders. And we have often told the shareholders and insiders that they don't own the banks alone. Our analysis shows that this, if you look at the balance sheets of an average 5-year-old bank, the size of the deposit in those banks is almost 10 times the shareholders from the paid-up capital of those banks. So if you ask me who owns banks, I will say it is depositors that own the banks. It is not the shareholders. The shareholders just have what I can call fiduciary responsibility, which they must perform. But where we find them wanting, we will take them out so that the banks can survive and depositors don't lose their money.